Brian Moran, founder of Government CIO. Welcome to Government CIO Magazine.
Hi, my name is Amanda Ziede with Government CIO Magazine, and today we're speaking with Jerry Davis, Chief Information Officer at the Ames Research Center for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
So, coming to Ames, I think one of the things that's quite different from working and spending a lot of years in Washington, D.C. Is around, this is a very, very high-end operational environment. And one of the things I got to recognize right away was the diversity in the environment and diversity of the systems that are required to run this environment here. So at Ames Research Center, you have not just your typical government activities going on, but we have an active airfield, we have a fire department, we have a police department, we have a medical center, and then you look at that and then you put on that on top of the core work that we do, where we have to support scientists, engineers, researchers, and then your kind of commodity users. So the big challenge was the diversity of the environment and how do you kind of corral all the diversities that are within the environment and give everybody a good experience from an IT perspective. So that was one of the huge challenges that we had. I said the other challenge that we had was also being an operational environment is how do you meld operations with compliance activities? When you're in Washington, D.C., generally it's a very kind of common computing environment. And compliance is a little easier to integrate into those environments. Well, here at Ames Research Center, like most of the NASA centers, are very highly operational, what we call operational tempo and things like that. It's very, very difficult to meld in compliance into an operational environment. The way you get through that and the way you get that to work for you is you have to, what I call, operationalize compliance. And basically what that means is that you have to build compliance measures into the everyday working activities of your customer base. So how do you do that? You can't just force feed it in there. What you have to do is, what I always tell folks is you have to articulate the value of the activity to the customer. And you have to be able to do it in a way that they can understand it, in a way that they derive value. I always tell folks that value goes two ways. We have a value, look at value from our perspective as providers, and then the receivers also have a perspective on value. So we have to talk in their language what's value, and then when they derive the value, it's a lot easier to integrate that. So what we do is we spend a lot of times with the customer, high-touch environment, a lot of communications, and that has helped operationalize them to the everyday activities of our customer base. I've said that a lot for a lot of years, and it's interesting in the security environment. Excuse me. In the security environment, we've been hearing talk over the years that, well, the network is gone. There's no more perimeters and that sort of thing. Well, I still think that that's necessarily not true. There's still, the network is there, the perimeter there. It's just very, very stretched out when you have things like mobile devices and things of that nature. So there's still a paradigm around what we call in the security field defense in depth, right? So if you look at it holistically in what we call like the onion model, so on the outside of the onion model, you may have your governance activities, policies, standards, procedures, and that sort of thing. And then you kind of keep squashing that down, and you have the network. And then you have systems. And then you have applications. And then you have users. And at the very tiny in the middle there, you have the data. And if you were to look at each one of those areas individually, they would all have different defense in depths around each of those onion layers. When you get down to the data level, there's not a lot of security that's really going on today, not a tremendous lot around data security itself. A lot of it is centered around the actual system or application that the data resides on. So one of the things that we're doing here at Ames that is not just for Ames, but it's actually an agency initiative. And that's one of the good parts about working at Ames Research Center is that we have a lot of researchers and we have a long history in information technology. So one of the initiatives that we're working for the agency at large with our partners over in the advanced supercomputing area is what we call data tagging. And basically what we're doing is we're taking data at the very smallest element and we're applying an attribute to it. And when you apply that attribute, or we'll call it, maybe it could be a digital signature or something of that nature, that attribute basically categorizes the data. And it says, I'm sensitive, so I can't go here or I can't go there. There's certain things that you can and cannot do with this data. So that's an initiative we've been working on for a few years. We're looking at some commercial products along with that, but at the same time we're doing some in-house development that we're working on, and we're looking to move that forward in the next couple of years here. We've been doing some incremental progress. It's going fairly well here at Ames, and eventually we'll roll that out to the agency at large. So FY17, which is already almost halfway through the year, we've been working on a number of initiatives throughout the last really 2 years. Right now, as we move into FY17, one of the areas that we're really focused on is very mission-centric, and it's an idea that we have around designing and security engineering into the systems development process. And we're talking about systems, we're talking about what I call tooth to tail mission systems. So if we're talking about, let's say, a satellite system, talk about designing in security at the early planning stages when they're thinking about creating a mission. So what that would mean is that there's the ground segment of a satellite system, and it would be like, how do we design in security from a cyber perspective into that system? And then as you move up from the ground up to the overhead platform, those need security as well. We're finding that with the advent of the internet and malicious actors, that overhead platforms, whether they be aircraft or whether they be satellite spacecraft, that they need cybersecurity resilience as well. So we're looking at building a framework, an innovative framework that demonstrates how do you build in cybersecurity into a space platform as well. So FY17, hopefully by the time the fiscal year is over, we'll have the framework completed, and we'll start moving into the next phase of that, which is start to do some proof of concept testing in an engineering environment, a scientific environment, of moving cybersecurity actually into those different platforms. And we call that phase 0 cybersecurity. With the advent of FITARA, the good thing about the agency as a whole that actually made its way down to all the centers is that we were already working on an agency-wide initiative around what we called baseline services assessment. And what we did was we looked at all of the services in information technology and looked at areas where we could optimize our services. Looked at the health, looked at how we can optimize, how we can get efficient. And what that did was that allowed us to kind of plug right into FITARA. One of the things here at Ames that it really did for us was build a better relationship with the CFO's office. And what it also did was gave us greater visibility into IT programs and projects that were going on around the center. Oftentimes, when you have organizations that may get their own appropriations and that sort of thing from Congress, they have the latitude to acquire information technology to be able to perform their missions. And in past times, it was really, really hard for a CIO to get visibility into that. What FITARA did was it opened the doors a little wider, gave the CIOs some more authority in that area to gain visibility and influence information technology acquisition and management of information technology. It's always a little difficult at the beginning to try to implement these. Again, it's largely a little bit beyond a compliance activity. This is actually what I like to say, it's a real thing that's actually taking place. But it took a lot of communications with the programmatic side of the house and other sides of the house, as well as the CIO is gaining more visibility and authority in information technology and how it's procured and how it's managed. It's been a couple of years since we really started getting into it, but now we're looking forward in the next couple of years or so and gaining more efficiencies and optimization around information technology. And what that does in the long run from the agency, because we spend a lot of money on information technology, somewhere in the figures as high as from 1.2 to 1.8 billion dollars in just information technology alone. Well, there's efficiencies to be gained there. And as we're trying to do missions like go to Mars, it takes a lot of resources, and some of those resources obviously include funding to get there. So if we can squeeze funding, become more efficient with IT, that frees up dollars to perform the mission of going to Mars and lower orbit and beyond. So those are some of the good things that I see that are coming out of FITARA that we're starting to implement more and more here at the center level. So, Ames, one of the things I really love about Ames is that there's so much technology here. And not just information technology, but just technology as a whole. When I look at the different technologies that we have, and particularly information technology that we have, there is an opportunity to use those technologies to do other things and apply them in other ways that we traditionally wouldn't apply them in NASA today and beyond NASA. So, as an example, some of the things that I'm looking at over the next 5 years is working with and building collaborations with other directorates here at Ames in the area of the NASA Advanced Supercomputing area. To do things like data analytics in the security realm and looking at security data and doing deep analytics that can tell you what's going on in the network. Looking at things in our areas that we have in artificial intelligence. We do a lot of work in robotics and intelligent systems. There's no reason why we can't take that and do the same thing with security products that have artificial intelligence built into them and do some evaluation, use the capabilities that we have to further our mission as well as it relates to protection of NASA assets by looking at different products, evaluating those products, and providing feedback to the community at large. One of the third areas that I'm really kind of excited about that I really want to start looking at over the next 5 years is the area of quantum computing. We see that there is a need to look at what they call post-quantum cryptography crypto systems. Today, as we look at crypto systems, cryptologic systems, we're finding that as quantum cryptography grows and quantum computing grows, that the current cryptographic systems that we have are becoming weaker and weaker. So at Ames, we're fortunate within one of our directorates to actually have a quantum computer, one of the few in the United States. So we're looking at the possibility of using that to further and advance things in the area of quantum cryptography and working on things like taking a look at space communications for encrypting space communications and things like that. So the idea is not necessarily what we're going to do here at Ames, but taking capabilities that we have that are normally traditionally used for other things and turning those into a service to apply in different areas across not just NASA, but potentially across the government as well. Yeah, our team, we have a phenomenal team here. And when I talk about the team, I'm not just talking about my organization or my directorate. I get a tremendous amount of support from all the directorates that are here and our customer base that we serve here at Ames, all the way from center director all the way down. And my message would be, that I've been here right at 4 years, and my message would be, number one, thanks, for really supporting the organization and allowing us to do the things that we can do, that we've been doing. And specific to my organization, I would say to my team to keep pushing forward on the things that we're doing and keep adding value. That's one of the statements that I made to our organization at the beginning of the year. I wrote a letter beginning of the year to all the employees and my contract staff, and one of the emphasis I said was about adding value. I said, we're here for the mission. We're not here for ourselves. IT is an enabler, but we're here for the mission, and we can only make the mission or help the mission to be successful by adding value. And if we can't add value, then we probably shouldn't be doing what we're doing. So that's our mantra for 2017, is that we're going to continue to add value and communicate value to our customer base. And I'll just say to our team, just keep pushing with that mantra.